Hey, how's it going, guys? The Lord Overseer here. Uh, Today I wanted to take this opportunity to, well, review Dead Island 2. Now, normally, I haven't really done a review before. I've only seen them and all that stuff. I've been meaning to do reviews for a while now, but I just finished this game a couple days ago, right? Yeah, you can see my stats there. I'm already finished with the main story. And how I feel about this game is honestly the reason why I'm even doing this to begin with. I have a lot to say about this. But anyway, without further ado, I hope you enjoyed this review and I hope you enjoyed today's video. I promise to try to be as unbiased as I possibly can, but no promises. Considering I'm a long-time Dead Island fan, there are some things that really grind my gears. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I'll see you at the end. Okay, folks, keep in mind, the things I say in this video that has turned into like a rant slash review thing that I don't even know at this point. I wanted to say, I just want you to keep in mind that this is in my opinion, okay? This is my opinion of the game, my impression of it, right? I'm not saying this is how you feel about the game or anything like that, how anybody feels. This is how I feel, right? So I feel the game faults where its predecessor succeeded in. All right. So regardless of how you feel about my opinion or how you feel about the game, that's totally fine. If you want to disagree with me, by all means, go ahead. I'll take it into account. If you want to criticize me and how I feel about the game, how I'm trash and all this shit, by all means, go ahead, man. I'll just I'm willing to dish out the heat. I can take it. So yeah, just keep that in mind. I don't want to hear any folks going like, well, you were just terrible trying to tell people how to feel about the game. That's not what I'm applying, all right? Bro, regardless, that's all I wanted to say. Enjoy the rest of the video. Right, so the first thing I wanted to start off is the story. And more specifically, the characters, and more specifically for that, the main cast. Especially the zombie guys that you fight against. Oh boy, I mean, the Slayers, more or less, is what you want to fucking call them. Right, so the first section I want to talk about is the story of this game. More specifically, the main characters, and more specifically than that, the Slayers you can play as in this game. Now, let's compare and contrast the cast from Dead Island 2 to Dead Island 1 and Riptide. So let's start with this game first. Right, so let's get into it. So there's a total of 6 playable characters. 3 male and 3 female. Now let's get into who the hell they are. So first off on the list we have a person named Jacob. Now he has a quote here that says, "Cheer up, sunshine, you're with me." He has a British accent. Now the thing about this game's characters is that they're not very focused upon themselves, and they kind of assimilate with each other in terms of characterization, personality, and looks. Like, look, here's Jacob, right? He's a black man with an afro, facial hair, smoking a cigar, with a very punk-like outfit, right? Then we have Bruno here. That looks like a version of 6ix9ine, to be honest, with a camo jacket, with a long African style hair, with glasses and chains, and with a shirt that says, what is that, Fernell? Something like that, I don't know. He dresses like an influencer, more or less. Then we have Carla, who is a Hispanic person, and the way she dressed, she looks very athletic, but she comes off as a very headstrong character. I I honestly can't make this shit up, folks. Look at her quote. "I weigh, so we're gonna hang out forever. Let's hit the gas and fucking go." You can tell just from her quote alone that she likes to get shit done and she likes to have fun while doing it. Nothing wrong with that, but at the same time, since none really the characters really give a fuck about their choices, they kind of blend in. Same with this chick. Then we have Danny. Danny's a Scottish person, and her quote is, "Darling, if you don't stop sticking your nose in my business, I'm gonna feed it to you." Now, she seems like a reserved person who just likes to get shit done, just likes to keep herself alive, and just wants to get out of like all that stuff. she likes to keep herself alive, and she's a very reserved person, from what I could tell. Then we have Ryan, who is the character I played with throughout the entire story, who can come off as a bit of a coward, but that's more in the early story. And later on in the story, he's like more of like I wouldn't say heroic character, but yeah, he is kind of like a heroic character, like wanting to help out everybody. Wants to everybody wants to get the fuck out and all that shit. You can't blame him for his circumstances, but you know, he's like the person who just got here like wrong place at the wrong time, basically. Then finally we have Amy. Now, I haven't played as her, and from what I hear, she talks a lot. So that's why I didn't really bother choosing her, because, you know, I don't want to deal with that shit all game, because I knew this game's personality was going to be like dog shit, and I figured I want to keep that shit to an absolute minimum. Now, these characters in themselves aren't bad. Well, more or less, I can only specifically speak for Ryan, because that's the only character I ever played with during this entire game. But they all seem to like, although despite the circumstances that they're put in, they all seem to like know about the consequences of their actions and what they have to do in order to keep themselves alive. Now, that in itself is not the problem I have with. The problem I have with is how similar they are to each other. Like, just from speaking appearances, can you tell the difference between them? Well, here's a better question. Can you tell that they don't know each other? Here's Jacob, right? Look at his outfit. Here's Bruno. Look at his outfit. Here's Carla. Look at her outfit. There's Danny. Look at her outfit. There's Ryan. Look at his outfit. And then we have Amy. Look at her outfit. You notice how all of them look very similar to each other, except for Ryan? That's my fucking problem, dude. They have little to no personality that differentiate from each other. They're very fucking similar to each other, except for Ryan. You can tell, appearance-wise, that he's different from the rest of the group. He may come off as a bunch of a coward, but you can tell that's what makes him stand out from the rest of the crowd. And it doesn't get better from there. Because all you can do is just... Like, you don't even get to hear the brief story. Like, you literally know nothing about these characters aside from their initial appearance, their personality when they interact with our characters, and the quote that they fucking give us here. And their stats, too. Innate skills, we'll get into that in a second. Their stats are also shown on the right side here when you first look at the characters, like toughness, stamina, health recovery, critical damage, agility, peak health, and resilience. Now, of course, all of them are different for each character. Like, you can tell the white stuff indicates like the average stats that they have for you. The yellow indicates what they're best at, and the red indicates what's the weakest attribute. And so on and so forth. Of course, for every character, it's different. Everyone has their best, and everyone has the worst in every area. And dang, you're just left with a choice. Like, who do you want to go with eventually? It's no longer about, like, who do you like the most and what occurs to your playstyle. It's rather who has the best stats so you can have the easiest time playing this game. And it doesn't get back from there because there is no way to upgrade your character later on. We'll get to that in a second. Now let's compare this cast from Dead Island 1 and Dead Island Riptide. Right, so here we are at Dead Island 1. 4 characters. So it's already 2 less from what Dead Island 2 has to offer. Now, there's less in variety, but you can tell just from appearance-wise, they look very distinct from each other. Like here, Stan B. He looks extremely fit. He's holding a sledgehammer, so you can tell he knows his shit and he knows how to defend himself. Even when you go to select his character, he even narrates a little side story to you about his background, what he does, and how he ended up in this situation.
I grew up in New Orleans, lower 9th Ward. My daddy went to prison when I was 2. That's where he died.
Just like that. Yeah, it can come up as a bit of exposition dump, but that's still enough for you to get what the character is like. and understand why and understand how he's able to survive all this despite the circumstances. And that's just from choosing the character. It only expands upon it builds he only builds himself as a character as you play the game and the sequel, Riptide. You can tell just from their appearances alone that they're different from each other, just from their outfit choices, their hairstyle, their facial style, their facial hairstyle, their tattoos, their ethnicities, their races, all that stuff. All that stuff. And their names too, Sam B, Xian, Pruna, and Logan. You can tell that these characters are different from each other, and the fact that, well, who do you like the most is also plays to a factor who you want to play with in this game. Now, let's look at its actual stats. There's only 3 this time, but that's the only 3 that truly matter. Health, speed, and stamina. Of course, it changes depending on the character. Like some have lower health than others, have more stamina than others, and etc., etc. But the most important, distinct feature that you need to take into account here is their attribute is exactly what they're an expert at. So here we have Logan, for example.
Oh man, I used to be on top of the world, brother. All-pro quarterback 4 years running. Voted the sexiest Texan in 2004. Yeah, man, I beat him.
Now Logan used to be a football player, and that explains why, he's a throwing expert. He knows how to throw shit, and he's good at it. Because, since he has the background of a fucking football player, then he knows how to do, that's what he's an expert at. Plus his health and speed and stamina reflect that. He's in good condition because of his background as an athlete. He has good speed because of it. Maybe not the best stamina up in the world, but it's still pretty high considering that he's a fucking athlete. Then we have Pruna.
I hate rich assholes, which is fucking ironic since I'm expected to put my bloody life on the line for them. That's what they pay me for, this pricey hotel here. To be a bodyguard for the rich and famous fuckwits who come to Benoi to blow their money. I used to be a cop, a bloody good one. A vice detective in Sydney. You know how many feet...
Now Pruna used to be a cop, and therefore that explains why she's so proficient in firearms, because she was specifically trained for those weapons. And considering that she used to be a cop and now she works as a bodyguard for, as you call, rich assholes, it's understandable why she needs to keep that skill sharp and why she's so proficient in firearms. Doesn't matter, pistols, shotguns, rifles, doesn't matter. She's good at it, therefore that's her strength as a character. Then we have Xian.
My father was a very great man, a chief inspector for the Hong Kong police. Even though he died when I was 10, I remember him very well. He was killed by an enforcer for the Wo-Shing-Wo triad, and I told myself then that I would follow in his footsteps and honor his memory. He taught me martial arts, and I continued to practice after he was gone. After finishing at the top of my university class, I joined the Hong Kong police and was chosen as part of the first all-female anti-organized crime squad. I worked hard. I did my best. But the men in charge never intended to put us on the front lines. They didn't train us the way they promised they would. They didn't believe any of us women were up to the task. They were only for show. Instead, my superiors sent me here, to this resort, to this front desk, to be an informer, to spy on wealthy Westerners.
Now, Xian has a background in not only police and police work, but also, since her father taught her martial arts, she's proficient in hand-to-hand combat, and also it can explain why she's so proficient in sharp objects experts, because, with people with Chinese or who are Chinese or Japanese descendants, they are known to work train with bladed weapons. I'm not saying that she specifically trained with bladed weapons. She never said she did. But maybe at one point during the police academy, or when she got bored, I don't fucking know, that she just got, she got into bladed weapons, started training with them, or like using them, and all that shit. And that explains why she's so good with, sharp weapons expert. Now, personally, my play style is bladed weapons, so that's why Xian will be a perfect fit for me, because since she's an expert in that area, she's good with them. Then that fits into my playstyle and gives me a much more entertaining time. Now, of course, her health is the lowest, I think, of all the characters. She has the good speed and good stamina that reflects her character, and also her background explains her outfit choice. She dresses like a clerk. But that makes sense because she was specifically sent to Benoit to spy on people. Then lastly, we have Sam B.
I grew up in New Orleans, lower Ninth Ward. My daddy went to prison when I was 2. That's where he died, Angola. Mama didn't ever recover from there. Just drank and did crack. And any random motherfucker who didn't smack her around too bad. My nana the one who raised me. She run the washateria. We lived in a little shotgun house on Burgundy. From the time I was 10, man, I want to rap. I was into old school freestyle rap. And I'd be kicking ass at them battles, bruh. But man, just couldn't catch a break. Nothing caught on. So, one Halloween, I come up with, "Who do you voodoo, bitch?" Just as a motherfucking joke, you know? Went right to the top of the hip-hop charts like a motherfucking rocket. And suddenly, I was famous. Going to the Grammys, hitting the parties. Man, I had bitches up to yin yang. And for the first time in my life, I was making money. Shit. I was spending it as quick as I was getting it. I thought I'd made it, you know what I'm saying? That great.
Now, just from his background alone, you could tell he had a rough childhood with nobody really cared for him aside from one of his relatives. Therefore, he knew at a young age he had to work extremely hard to make up for his, lack of suitable circumstances. You know what I mean? He had to work extra hard to make up for his shortcomings. That was the cards he was dealt with. That's how he's going to play them. And through hard work, he eventually caught a break, but it still wasn't enough. He has to still keep working hard and hard and hard to get back to where he wants to be and where he once was. He comes off as a character who doesn't like fucking around, who likes to get shit done, and making sure that everyone else keeps in line so they can reach their goals like he wants to. And that makes him compelling as a character because he's not fit into a stereotypical role. He's like a sort of like a leader of the group. I wouldn't say leader, but he's definitely one of the strong characters of the group and one to like lead them through all like their decision making and being the most level-headed person of the group. Now all of this, keep in mind too, all of this is on the surface level. This is what you just see at first. When you get into the actual game and play through their stories and the overarching story and have them develop their characters, my god, it's great. Because the game actually treats them like actual human beings and that their decisions matter in the long run. Even if it doesn't seem like it at first, once you play the game and go through it, then, it's great. Now, lastly, for the last character I wanted to mention for Dead Island 1 and Riptide was John Morgan. John Morgan was introduced in Dead Island Riptide, but since he's part of the group that was, the survivors of the first game, and also before Dead Island 2, it only felt right to include him here. Now, he's an expert in hand-to-hand combat, meaning that he knows how to fucking throw a punch and use weapons that are meant to punch you and all that shit, like brass knuckles or like claw weapons and all that stuff.
My grandfather fought the Japanese here in World War II and never left. Married a local girl. My father was native born and a sergeant major, so I'm second generation military. And from the time I was 10, I wanted to follow in their footsteps. I wanted to be a soldier and protect and defend this country against all enemies. Well, I did my job. Did what I was told. Always followed orders. Until the day they gave me an order I couldn't follow. You see, it's hard to describe how it feels when everything you believe in turns out to be a lie. When the people you trusted let the ones you love die. And none of my commanders were born here. None of them knew the land and the people who lived here. None of them had to sacrifice anything. So they made others sacrifice what was dearest to them. I still can't believe I was the only one to say no, but I was the only one. I was accused of desertion and treason, and for that I was to spend the rest of my life in prison, simply for helping those I'd sworn to protect. Well, now I know who the real enemy is. When this fight is not over, I swore an oath. And as far as I'm concerned, John Morgan is still a soldier.
Now I could tell just from his character bio that his background as his background in the military and as a soldier, that he doesn't like to fuck around and get shit done. He also has morals. And those before him didn't like those morals that he dispelled upon because it went against what they believed in. So therefore they discarded him and disgraced him. But I didn't stop him for fighting for what he believed in. And again, like with the other characters, it only expands from here because as he interacts with new people and as his decisions narrate the story, then it shapes the worlds around him and how people view him at the end. And despite this, at the end of the day, although it's all like set in stone, despite who you want to believe in, what you want to believe in, what you think is right, at the end of the day, it's all the same. But regardless, all these characters have something different to offer, and their backgrounds make it more compelling. The main point I'm trying to make with this is that each character was distinctly different, and not only in their play styles, but also in their story. Not only in their story, but also in their play styles, which encourage more replay value. Because now you want to go back and see how those characters fared in a fight against the undead, with their different stats and what they're differently proficient in, and all that stuff. And here, with these characters, we have absolutely none of that. We have no backstory, no visual distinction, not much. Well, visual distinction, but not much visual distinction. They look very similar to each other, outfit and character-wise, as well as ethnicities and all that stuff. They all blend in together, and that's exactly the problem. And what's worse is that when you play as the character, your character never interacts with any of the other survivors that you can play as. Not at all. At all. At the previous two games, your character interacts with the other survivors because not only were they immune, but they were part of a group together, which they make decisions based as a group and help them survive through the hellish nightmare. Here, you just play as a character and you just help out with any other character you just run across with. You never interact with the other survivors, and that's my biggest problem with this game. Because then, it just makes you feel all the more special, and it loses gravity really quick because you know that the fucking foundation of this game's story is literally the exact same as it was in the previous two fucking games. But we'll get to that in a sec. Okay, now that we got characters out the way, let's take a look at the overarching story of this game. Now, I'm not going to discuss the entire story. I'm not going to summarize the game's story in any other way. I'm only going to be talking about the characters you interact with and meet, and the lore behind this game. So, given that this is a direct sequel to Dead Island Riptide, you think that this game will revolve around how the outbreak got started and what can we do to stop it, right? Oh boy, are you in for a fucking surprise. Take a wild guess on how many characters from the previous games return for this game. Take a wild guess. Come on, I'll give you a second. One character returns. And you want to know who the character is? No, folks, your eyes do not deceive you. Sam B. Sam B is the recurrent character in this game. Sam B is the only character to come back in this game. Now, don't get me wrong, I love Sam B. I love this character. I think he's an awesome dude. But what they did to him in this game, it infuriates me. It is a complete betrayal of his character. In the previous games, he showed himself as a no-nonsense motherfucker who, despite enjoying the circumstances, enjoying killing zombies, was a hard worker, achieved everything he could to get to his end goal, which was escaping alive, and also more important of all, he was a no-nonsense person who was always level with everybody and the most level-headed person in the entire game. Here, he's still that, But here's the problem. Yeah. He does nothing in the fucking story. He does almost nothing because he just hangs around at the fucking safe house all damn day. Fucking hell. All he does is just hang around the safe house and be a fucking simp for Emma John. Because, God, I don't know. They had a relationship once? I don't fucking know. Emma John's like a main character. Well, main character in air quotes. That she first, like, unless you was staying in her place or some shit. And apparently they were romantic in the past and they broke it off. And now he's trying to get back with her again. He basically turned into a simp. And, oh my God, I can't believe they fucking did that to him. Because he was such a cool person. Now he's lame. Like, he still looks cool and all that stuff. He's still visually different. But still, he's the only character to come back. And it's a complete betrayal of what his character was. But despite that, you would think, oh, well, since he's in the game, surely he can explain all the circumstances, right? He can explain, how he managed to get out. Or how he managed to survive the incident with Benoit and all that shit, and tells the stories and how things happened here. No! No, he never fucking talks about how he got out of Benoit, what happened to him after Dead on the Riptide. He doesn't even talk about the other fucking characters, he just names drops them, and that's it. We have no closure. The fucking ending of Dead Island Riptide was one of the biggest cliffhangers in the Dead Island series, and they just fucking lost over it like it was nothing. No, what the fuck happened? Ugh, it irritates me. And the fucking lore that you can discover in this game, aka the collectibles that you can get, only talks about this outbreak in particular. It doesn't talk about previous incidents of the one of Benoit or Palamai, or the viruses involved with those. It only talks about this fucking game. And I hate that. I hate how the previous games were unaddressed, like if they never fucking existed in the first place. Literally, Sam B is literally the only thing about the past games that appear in this fucking game. Literally, that's it. That's fucking it. Nothing else in this game indicates that the other two games ever happened. It's like this game was something else entirely. Right. Well, that being said, now let's move on from the story to the world. More specifically, the zombies you face, what caused this outbreak to begin with, and the lore behind this game, and fucking, what's he saying? And the unresolved mysteries. Right. Now, the way this outbreak started and how it progressed is unknown. But basically, a scientist named Dr. Reed, he more or less indirectly started the outbreak. And this outbreak is not the same stuff that it was in Dead Island 2. Dead Island 2 was a virus, and it was called the HK virus. This is not the same plague. This virus is called autophage, more or less. And that's what consists of all these viruses. You see how they're all veiny and all that shit? That's autophage in their system. Like, making them do all the rabbit shit. And you see all this growth here is all because of autophage as well. This clearly wasn't in the previous game because this thing does not exist at the time. This was only recently discovered, more or less. Discovered, but the lore in this game indicates that this existed for millions of, well, at least thousands of years in humanity and is part of us, but it's laid there dormant deep in our systems, and whatever caused this outbreak reawakened it. Now, it's causing all this. Not only all this growth to fucking happen, but also cause everybody to turn into zombies. And all the different mutations and all that stuff. This isn't the same virus as it was back then. Because even Sam B is infected and almost turned into a damn zombie despite being immune. It clearly indicates this is not the same pathogen it was before. Now, personally, I don't have a problem with that, but the game never builds on or elaborate exactly what this shit is. It just kind of just like finishes before it just gets starts with like fucking explain what this stuff is. all that stuff. Ugh, it's a fucking mess, I tell you. Man, I wish the game focused more on this, but it doesn't, man, and it doesn't, and that's what pisses me off so much about this. Maybe in the lore file somewhere it explains more about the history of this and why the characters do all this, but still doesn't explain how this outbreak happened. I mean, doesn't explain how things got so bad as it did, and why this is happening. How come? How did Sam B and the others manage to escape annoying and Palamai without spreading the virus and all that stuff? Like, none of that's ever explained, and that's my biggest gripe with this. It just tells a story completely new. It just completely disregards the previous two games, despite the fact that this game is called Dead Island 2. Alright, now the last thing I wanted to touch was the gameplay aspect. Now, gameplay, more or less, is similar to Dead Island 1 and Riptide, so I'm not going to spend too much time here, but there's very discernible differences that I need to point out. So first of all, the weapons. The weapons, thankfully, feel more or less the same as it did Dead Island 1 and Riptide. The weapons themselves are like pretty variety and all that stuff. There's blunt weapons, bladed weapons, knives, all that shit, claws and all that stuff. You can even collect material like this to upgrade weapons. Not only upgrade their stats, but also build like parts like flame elements or electrical elements and all that stuff to make it more, your style and what you want to rock with in this game. Similar to the first two games. Now that's where he's managed to succeed so far. However, my problem with this is not the fucking gameplay aspects. It's not the gameplay aspects, but the actual combat itself. It feels slow. It feels sluggish. It feels all that stuff. Let me find a zombie to demonstrate to you real quick. So take this zombie for example. Let me fight this one. It feels too smooth for my taste. What the f- How am I taking damage? Oh, this way. I don't know, to me, it feels slow and it feels sluggish, and this time you don't even have to worry about stamina up, so you can hit zombies as much as you like without a thought in the world. In the previous games, you had to worry about, like, how hard you hit them. Well, not really worry, but you could see, like, how hard you hit them, how much damage you were doing to them, health-wise and all that stuff. It was more distinctive. Alright, hold on, let me just kill this last one. This is getting fucking annoying. And also the animations for it, it's too smooth. Like you feel like you can easily cut through them, but because of that, you can't really feel the impact of of your fight style. It just feels like you're cutting through butter without actually feeling like you're cutting through an actual person and all that stuff. Nothing really wrong with that, but still, my point stands. I don't like the combat in this game because it feels slow, it feels sluggish, and it feels too smooth. Like, look at this shit. You could cut way too easily through that. You had to actually put in some effort in the previous games. One thing I would definitely compliment this game on is the visuals. This graphics looks fucking amazing for this generation. Like, truly, this is really impressive. Like, I'm not even being sarcastic or anything. Like, I will give the game this. This game visually looks stunning, and the detail they put into the characters and the models and the gore and all that stuff. They really knocked it out of the park here. You can actually see the damage you're doing to them. You can see them cutting off their bones. You can see the bones, the muscles, the tissues, and all that stuff. Even the differences of since the Shamblers don't have any blood, you don't really see blood spilling out of them that much. but with like any other infected, like there's more blood spilling out and all that shit. Like it feels really realistic about like how you're doing damage to each person, even if, albeit some of the bones kind of feel like they're a little the bones like kind of jiggle sometimes. That's kind of like ruin the immersion, but you know what I mean. I'll give it that. Visually, this game is knocked out of the park. Like it has, like many games nowadays have like a lot to live up to get this level of detail and all that stuff with the world. Now, crafting in this game works just like any other games. You have to go to a workbench. You have to like go down to like repair your weapons using money like last time, and build upgrades and all that shit. And in this game, you even have the option to level up your weapons to match your level in game. So you no longer have to worry about discarding weapons because they're too low now. If you have enough money, then you could just make them to your level. Right here, where it says level match. If you have enough money, they can match it to your level, so it can boost your stats and all that stuff. I think is one of the few things this game actually improves upon from the previous games, aside from the graphics and shit like that. Because now you don't have to discard weapons, and if you have a particular weapon, just save up enough money, upgrade it, and match it up to your level, and you can use it for as long as you want. I like that. That's definitely an improvement over the previous game. I'll give it that. But it still isn't enough to pique my interest and keep me playing, because everything else just doesn't live up to it. Jesus. Now, second to last thing I need to mention, zombie varieties. Now, let's see. Now, this game has called the Zombiepedia. I know, very original. Now, basically, this game has a section where you can like look up the different types of zombies and all that stuff. So, I'm not including different varieties of already existing zombies. I'm only going to include zombies that are that are really different from each other. So this game, we have the Shamblers that are like the Walkers, but they're much weaker, and they move slower, they attack slower and all that stuff, and they're much weaker. They're pretty easy to deal with. The only thing about them that makes them set them apart is that they're really gray, they're really slow and all that stuff, and they're resistant to bleed damage because they don't have any blood left, more or less. Then we have the average Walkers, so it's like the same as the previous games. Like Walkers are just like there to make or break your day. Like they're like basically cannon fodder. The same as like weaker, like they're stronger than the Shamblers, but they're still like nothing compared to the other effective. Now the Runners in the previous game are still, like the usual. They're much faster. They can run. They can jump. Well, I don't say they can jump, but they can climb up to places to reach you. They can attack you with speed and all that stuff. They're pretty fit, but still not as strong as like the other infected. Then we have varieties like the Burning Walker, the Burning Runner, which is basically the same thing as the previous versions. The only difference is that they can add burning damage to you. And the Shocking Walkers that are basically the same as the Walkers, except they have electrical elements. Same with the Shocking Runner, same thing as the Runner, but with electrical elements. Then we have the Spiky Walkers, same thing as a fucking Walker, just that with shards, so they can do extra damage to you. Same with Spiky Runners. They're the same thing, except they're covered in shards, so they can do extra damage to you. Now we have the Riot Gear. We have the Riot Gear Walkers. Now they're basically Walkers that are armored. While they're much more resistant to damage because obviously from the body armor, you can break them off and you can still do normal damage to them once you break off all the body parts. Once you break off all the armor parts. Then we have, I would say, is a new type of infected called the insect swarm walkers. Now these guys are like walkers, but the thing about them is that they have a hive literally inside their body. Like, I'm not even joking. Like, look at him. It's literally a hive inside his body. Now, what happens is that when you get close to him, the insects get irritated and they start attacking you. They can take away your health. They can take away... Well, they don't really do much damage to you, but they can take away your stamina. And you seriously don't want that happening, to be honest, because then it could be a really bitch later on. Then we have the Cultist X Walkers that are like normal walkers, but they're resistant to like acid type attacks because of the suits they're wearing and all that shit. Well, this one in particular wears like a tank that has the acid attack. So when you kill them and it explodes, it leaves like an acid pool that could damage unaffected, which is pretty cool. But still, then we have the hydration walkers that are literally what they sound like. They're walkers that have water tanks on them, and if you kill them, it explodes the water tank, then it leaves water. Now, normally the water in itself doesn't really do anything to walkers, but you can electrify it. That could do electrical damage to walkers. They have incinerating walkers that have fuel tanks on their back. You know, when you kill them, when you kill them and they die and they drop there, you can like attack the gas tank. Then if you hit the gas tank, it'll explode and leave like a pool of fuel that's on fire. You can do fire damage to zombies. Now they have grenadier walkers. Now these are walkers that are military personnel that have grenades on them. Now if you hit them enough, or with grenades, if you hit them enough, then the grenades on them will activate, and when they die, they explode. Or at least after a set timer, they explode, and they take out. And the explosion is pretty huge, so you can take out a lot of zombies with it if you're pretty strategic. Hazmat runners and hazmat walkers are basically like runners or hazmats, but they're immune or have very high resistance to acid-based attacks because of the suits they're wearing, since they're specifically made to protect them from acid attack from acid-based products. That's why they're resistant to it, obviously. Then we have the firefighter zombies, walkers, and runners that are basically the same as runners and walkers, but since they're wearing firefighter gear, they're immune to fire-based attacks. Well, mainly fire-based attacks, but they're also immune to shock and acid attacks because their gear is specifically made to protect them from those types of elements. More specifically, fire. You know what I mean. Then you have E-corridors, which are basically runners that have food on them. So when you kill them and destroy their backpack, then they could drop food. You can use it to heal yourself and all that stuff. But I don't have a problem with these in itself. It's just that my main problem with them is that they all feel too similar to each other because they're literally just reskins of walkers and runners, and some of them are downright immune to your attacks, like not just the elements, but also your attacks entirely. So you have a weapon that has fire elements, and you try to attack a firefighter zombie. Guess what? You're not doing shit to that dude, so you better find something else. Then we have the alpha variants. The alpha variants are basically zombies that are not walkers or runners. So we have the crushers, which is this game's versions of the thugs. And we have the varieties, of course, the Inferno Crusher. Then we have the Bursters, which is this game's version of the Suiciders. They explode when you get too close, and they try to chase you around, and of course, all that stuff. The Slobbers, the Slobbers is this game's version of the Bloaters. They can attack you for range, they can spit out at you, they're very slow, they're very big, they're very fat. And, that's basically it. Petrified Slobbers. Now, they can spit out vomit as well as they have leeches on them that they can, dispel to attack you as well. And they can also stick, how should I say? They can also stick, acid traps to the walls to, make you, it's if you get close to them, then they'll explode on you and all that stuff. Firestorm Slobbers are basically the same thing as Slobbers, but, they have fire-based attacks. So if they hit the ground, then it's going to leave a fire. It's going to leave a pool of fire. Or if they breathe, then it's going to leave a pool of fire. All that stuff. The Screamers is one of the recurring enemies in this game. It's one of the very few infected, aside from the walkers and the runners, that returns to this game. Screamers, they scream a lot. And you get into their range, and they can slow you down or even damage you. And they draw infected to their area because, they scream really fucking loudly. And Voltic Screamers are basically the same thing as normal Screamers, but, they have electrical elements to it. Butchers are one of the returning enemies to this game. We have Bones for claws and all that stuff. They're actually one of the more dangerous types of enemies because of how fast they are, how much damage they can deal to you. And in this game, they can regenerate health. Mind you, they're fast as fuck. And they can go regenerate health whenever they damn please. So good luck with these motherfuckers. Vicious Butchers are basically the more aggressive version of Butchers. They attack you faster, they can run away faster, they can heal faster, I think. I don't know. And yeah, you can tell from this motherfucker that this guy's insane. Then we have the Mutators. The mutators are basically, I don't know, like all the zombie types into one. I'm not exactly sure how to describe this motherfucker. He's a tough one, believe me. In fact, in the entire game, you only can fight like 2 of them. But still, like, this guy's fucking tough. And not really much to say about this. He's basically all the infected types into one. So, yeah. I mean, the only thing about him is that he's not very fast, so you don't have to worry that much about him, but still. So, not including the different varieties of zombies, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We have 9 different infected varieties in total in this game. Let's see how much there was in the previous game. Right, so like I was saying, in Dead Island 1, we had the infected, the walker, and its varieties, the thug, the ram, the suicider, the floater, and the butcher. That's 7 infected types already. If you're to include the ones introduced in this game, Dead Island Riptide, which is the drowner, the screamer, the wrestler, the grenadier, and the mutated scientist, that's 12. That's 12. 11 if you want to put the grenadier and mutated scientist into one. But, nah. So that's 12 infected types in total from Dead Island 1 and Riptide. That's already like 3 more than... There's already like 3 more than what Dead Island 2 has to offer. If you're just looking at the main types and not the varieties of them. If you look at the varieties, then I say Dead Island 1 and Riptide has more than this, and then has more than Dead Island 2. So yeah. So one aspect. So the last thing I wanted to talk about was Fury Mode. Now, Fury Mode is a gameplay aspect where you, in the Dead Island 1 and Riptide, if you unlock them, then you can use them to like get into the attributes of characters and basically amplify their attacks so you can deal with zombies more. It's like a rage mode type of thing. For Logan, his Fury is he can throw a lot of knives at once into multiple targets and they can instantly kill them, making him an excellent fighter making him excellent for crowd control. Pruna, I believe hers is like something to do with firearms. I'm not totally sure. She can use a knife that can easily cut through infected, and with many infected types, she can insta-kill them, but with more of the heavier types, she can do a lot of damage to them, and she can kill them very fast still. Sam B, I believe, has something to do with like blunt weapons, and he could do like roundhouse and all that stuff. John Morgan's Fury Mode is he has a bow staff to where he can like hit multiple targets at once, and he can attack very fast with it, therefore making him also a candidate with crowd control like Logan. All that stuff. My main point is that everyone's Fury Mode was unique to each character, which also encourages replay value. Because then you want to see what their other Fury Modes were like and how you can use them and use it to your full advantage. Now this game's Fury Mode has the character do this. Now some characters have like ground pounds and a lot of stuff, but it's mainly just physical combat of just swiping their hands like a zombie. That's it. They don't use weapons or anything, nothing. That's just them. And it's literally the exact same for every other character in this game. That's their Fury Mode, just swiping at people. Now, of course, different characters have different, like, special moves and all that stuff, but it's still the same. It's still the same thing. So, if I'm just essentially playing the same damn character, just different stats, then why the fuck am I even playing this game over and over again? You know what I mean? You want to know what the worst part about all this is? If it weren't for the fact that this game was titled Dead Island 2 and Sam B was in it, honestly, if this game was just like a standalone version of a zombie game, like its own thing, and not like a Dead Island title, honestly, could have been a pretty good game. Not gonna lie. Sure, like some of it's kind of like sluggish and could use a little work, but the story and all that stuff wouldn't have been so bad if this game just didn't have ties to Dead Island 2, because it implies it's a sequel to Dead Island. But it's not. None of it is. It doesn't build up on the lore. It doesn't do the same. Actually has less to offer than the previous games. So why am I even here? If this isn't a Dead Island game, then what the fuck is it? What does this game want to be? Simply put, a zombie game with a Dead Island trademark to it, so I can sell more units. Well, regardless of how I feel about the game, at the end of the day, it's out here. It exists despite numerous delays. It finally finished, more or less. To me, it is a massive disappointment because I was really expecting more about this game than I did, and it failed to live up to those expectations. Despite all the delays this game went through, it feels unfinished. Hell, the story quest. Look how many story quests there are. There's 24. That's like 8 hours worth of game time if you're not including grinding. That is not how shit should work, dude. It may sound like a lot, but trust me, you'll breeze through it and forget so many important story elements like it was nothing. To me, this isn't a Dead Island game. This is just a game that has the title Dead Island 2 just so people think it's a Dead Island game. As a standalone, it could have worked, but as a Dead Island game, nah, Sam, nah, fam. This doesn't do it for me. This isn't working for me. This is garbage. Regardless, though, I'm still gonna wait for the story DLCs to see if they could, by some grace, save the story and finally answer the fucking questions. But who knows? Well, folks, that'll be all for today. I hope you enjoyed this rant. I'm pretty sure a lot of you think, well, this is complete dog shit, but this is just how I feel, okay? If you feel differently on the game, then that's your preferences, that's your opinion. If you enjoy this game for what it is, then I hope you have a great time, okay? Because all of this wasn't my cup of tea. I'm sure it was for many of you, well, at least for some of you, and if you continue to have fun with this game, then have fun completing the game. I'm not gonna play. I'm not gonna revisit the game. I can already tell I'm not gonna revisit this game that much. Simply put, just because of the story, because it's very uninteresting, and the characters are very uninteresting as well. And the gameplay is a step down compared to the other games and Dying Light 1 and 2. So yeah, that's how I feel about the game. That's how I feel how it let me down. The only way I could see this game improve upon itself, considering how it came out like this, is purely just all it can do now is just save the story. The gameplay and all that stuff, that's long gone by now. They have to completely redesign the entire game in order to fix the gameplay aspects, and at this point in the game's life cycle, that's already too late. So no point in doing that. But regardless, yeah, that'll be all for today. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Like, subscribe for more future content, and as always, I'll see you next time.